Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the rationalinvestor.com. I think we can officially say, if I'm not mistaken, I think Stuart has he's told me to change. Welcome back to rationalinvestor.com. I think well, it looks like I'm live on YouTube. So there you go, Jesse R. We are now officially live on YouTube. So have fun. I see there's a few people over there. But anyway, I think Stuart gave me instructions to change the Twitter feed to, let's see if I have that window open here, somewhere around here, to .com. So I'm getting the impression that Stuart is ready for us to, I guess, do a soft launch. I'm not sure what it's called. Let's see. Do I have that picture up here? Yeah, it is. So on Twitter, I've started to do the .com on the page here. And I think actually the last tweet that I put out was .com. So I think we're sort of officially, the web page is alive. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. So way to go, Stuart. Huge accomplishment. And on top of that, to add insult to injury, we started a new school term on him. Right at the same time. So and of course I'm not a programmer, so I'm not very good at any of this kind of stuff. So Stuart's basically shouldered a lot of this, so I gotta hand it to him. He's definitely earning his keep around here. There's no doubt about that. So if you do watch this later on, Stuart, way to go. And I have noticed that, usually when we have these new school terms, especially under the old sort of WordPress site, Julian had to do everything manually. There's some bumps in the road as we get these programs up and running. But I did see on balance, the school went fairly well for the level 2ers coming back. Huge class, absolutely monstrously huge class. But TAs Raf and James is in the lounge here in the Broiler Chicken show here this morning. I did a great job helping me, and I think everybody in the level 2's in good hands. And then I was able just to pop in for the last few minutes into the level 1 program that Grim had rocking and rolling this morning. And I got to see him in action. Looked like he was kicking butt as usual. So super excited for all of you new students and continuing students. And the level 3ers, we will get you guys rocking this coming Saturday. So everybody should be up and running in that regard. And again, Stuart, not to cover off the ball. The way that I think that we have to do it now is we sort of run the rocket chat beside the school page, level 1ers that we're working off of the Thinkific platform, if I'm not mistaken. And what I even did just for the level 2 same sort of thing is just have the page up and running. And I have the video on the page now, and just level 2ers, just so you're aware, I've thrown in all the links that we sort of talked about yesterday in the class on there. So you can find that there. It should be up and running, But Stuart's basically got this all nice and sort of streamlined for the level 2ers. So hats off, Stuart. And like we said a moment ago, the level 1ers, you got the Thinkific platform rocking it. So actually, I'm really impressed. Julian and Stuart, they brought it. They hit deadlines, and everybody's rocking and rolling. So way to go, guys. And as I said just a moment ago, we have a lot of students. I mean, geez, I think over 200 people, if I'm not mistaken. It's a pretty big number. So if there are a few people like, hey, Brian, I didn't, get the link, or hey, Brian, the email's a bit choppy. We'll just work on it. This is why we do the introductory week to the school program. So we'll spend the week just sort of hammering everything out. But, we'll hit the ground running, especially for the level 1ers and the level 2ers, the actual learning material this coming week. Right now, just take the time, get all the stuff in order, like I said, and we'll get emails and all that kind of stuff sorted out. So hats off to both Stuart for launching the TRI site.com now, we can say, as I sort of started off this video. And I think he's sort of calling it a soft launch right now, but nonetheless, he gave me instructions to start changing things like the Twitter links and stuff. And also hats off to the team for getting the latest school term up and running. Like, holy moly, wow. So way to go, Team TRI. And way to go to all you guys, because we're continuing on the education path, and it's great to see that we have such a vibrant community. Lots of people active in the chat room, coming for the daily briefs. I'm astounded that the site participation numbers are staying comfortably strong here. It's sort of feeling like we're working our way through the bear. Get all that education, all that learning stuff, get your trading plans all slick, understand 10 different ways to justify spending your hard-earned money in the marketplace, and then pick your favorite 3 or 4 and just go and rock the market. When the bull comes back, the bull will be back full stream. I don't see anything changing here. I thought it was interesting on Twitter this morning, I think it was, Tim Draper's going on about how he sees, and I probably can't find the link right now, so I won't waste everybody's time. But if somebody in the lounge knows the link, the article that I'm talking about, I think he said something like, in the next 10 to 15 years, the total market cap of crypto will be over $80 trillion. So is there room for a few more of these altcoin nonsensical parties where we're all pumping out Lambos? Sure. Oh, God, there's so much time here. It's ridiculous. And if anything, what I absolutely love about venture cap, of course, is that everything works absolutely textbook. It's so cliche. I was, I think a good little sort of anecdote when I was in Europe, when I was with Switzerland, and David was hosting me. Fantastic guy. Sure hope David's doing okay these days. We just stumbled into a crypto party, and the people there, they didn't even really understand what they were getting involved in. And in a weird sort of way, I think they were kind of like, set up to fail. But what I'm seeing is, as these things are getting washed out, the sentiment, of course, is getting absolutely horrific. I saw at least another 2 or 3 tweets when I went through this morning of, oh, that's it, I give up, I'm selling everything I'm getting out, and I hate crypto, wish I'd never gotten involved, blah, blah, blah. So the bear market is doing its job. It's actually very normal. And the question, ultimately you have to ask yourself, why are you in crypto to begin with? That's sort of the whole purpose of these education programs. And so, for our veteran core, like right now, we've got a couple of level 3ers. I've got an alumni, and I've got a few other people that are in the hangout here. So, the core that are involved in the space, why you're here. We don't need to, give you the sales pitch of why you like crypto, right? So, we don't have that, but that all should be expressed in your plan. So if that's the case, then, let's not let, ironically enough, absolutely horrendous negative public sentiment affect how we operate. And what I find hilarious is, one of our captains of Doge is actually in the hangout with me here this morning. Whenever I see him, I always think of the pictures from our funny trip. Not our funny trip, but the DogeCon through the summer. Does anybody have a picture of Shane through DogeCon, his funny outfit? But, I think Doge is a really great example where, don't take your eyes off the prize. Where the hell's the damn... Don't take your eye off the prize. Just don't do it. Because if anything, I think we've talked about this before. This is like a coin picker's market. Everybody should be able to see the divergence that came in here. Willie's stupid. You've heard Brian talk a bit about that. And I can show you a number of coins that all had this same OBV pattern where, money flew into this name on this rally. And then price came all the way right back down to basically where it started, but money didn't really leave. And then all of a sudden, holy crap, all hell breaks loose. So, just try and stay focused. And, it's really interesting. And it was so cool. I mean, I did myself because I've become a bit complacent here through the summer. I have to get off my butt and do this. But somebody was posting in the lounge that they got off a whole bunch of doubles this morning. We're back into this kind of environment, guys. Don't take your eye off the prize. Brian took his eye off the prize. Didn't have the orders working. Tisk, tisk. But somebody was actually in the lounge, and they even were like, "Thank you, Brian. Thank you for teaching me this. I was patient, I was disciplined, I worked my open orders, and I just got handed a gift today." So, we're back into this kind of environment, guys. And I thought it was interesting. I'm looking at, like you look at a name like this. No, I bet you if you asked, probably 80-90% of like 100 people surveyed, if you ask them, what do you think this is a half decent idea, half decent risk down here, they would say no way. And yet the irony of it all is this chart looks exactly like Doge looked before it took off, right? There are the previous peaks coming up against previous lows. We don't necessarily have a bottom working in here, quote unquote, yet, but if I take it down to a daily chart, let's see, do we have anything to work with? You can see a bottom's trying to form. But the point here is that, and especially when you look at this SBD, I think it looks even better. This is the kind of environment that I think we're back into. I mean, I looked at this morning and I was just like, holy Jesus. So, it's the old sort of opportunity, is opportunity now here, is opportunity nowhere. It really all depends on your perspective. But, I've got a ton of this stuff, so I certainly don't need to buy anymore. But I was even commenting in the lounge. I was just like, geez, if I didn't own any of this stuff, this is like a buyer's paradise. I mean, basically, they're giving this shit away. And nobody wants it. That's the best part about it. And, if you're patient and disciplined, kapow. And, maybe I should scroll up in the lounge and highlight that person. I was so impressed. But people are actually banging off doubles in this kind of market. So, it just goes, this is like a classic, the guy on the site right now who totally seems to espouse this in my eyes is Joshua. I'm actually surprised I didn't hear that he was banging off doubles on this, but let's see if I can find him. Oh, here it is here. Jesse R. I think we even saw Jesse R was chatting in the room this morning. Check this out. I mean, how do I do this? I can't do it that way. That way? There we go. Look at that, eh? Boom, 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 boom. Way to go, Jesse R. And this is the best part about doing this is that I bark this shit at you guys enough. I know that at least somebody in our community is going to get one of these things off. Right? So way to go, Jesse R. So proud of you. You're awesome. Well, what's got here? Oh yeah, there you go. Is that the same one? Did you get some trades off? So this is the kind of market that we're in. Just you got to do the work, and you got to have all the open orders working, and you got to buy against lows and shit that people don't want to buy. And if you don't think that there's one sitting there, I'm telling you, I've been playing this game long enough. I know this son of a bitch is going to rally up into this area at some point down the road. I mean, it's just sitting there. Now, whether you did reloads on, well, Brian, I bought some here at 88.6 or 78.6 or whatever. Okay, well, fine. Just keep your orders working. And like I said, this is the kind of market that we're back into again. This shit can pop out of nowhere. And actually, and I always butcher your name. Even to today, somebody's got to record audio how I'm supposed to pronounce your name, sir. So I'm just going to call you Mr. C. I don't know what it is. I cannot pronounce your name, and I know I'm going to butcher it. So I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to call you Mr. C. But I even just posted a link here in the Hangout that I just showed you, one that he got off. So right on. Okay, so that's sort of talking a little bit about the broader market. And, I've been nibbling away a little bit. I bought a couple altcoin positions recently. Nothing dramatic. Again, nibble kind of idea. But I'm just going through my list on a daily basis, just looking for those W's. And if I see them, I'll be more than happy to mention them to you guys as well. Didn't really see anything that jumped out at me this morning. And if anything, we don't want to be chasing names like Doge. Buying Doge up here actually is a bit dangerous. You can actually see the bearish divergence in the price momentum, the raw momentum indicator, and Willie actually is getting stupid now. So, please, I don't want to hear people that are, chasing Doge up here. We want to be hunting the W's. And as I said, I didn't really see anything dramatic to mention to you guys today. If I do, of course, I will. You know me, I'll be posting in the lounge. And I'll just keep an eye through the through this coming period. I mean, look at these little poppers. Look at that beautiful little W in there. So, I mean, this stuff, it is there. Here's another great example. Look how they, you know, all this money went pouring into this name and took the price all the way up here, and they worked the market all the way back down against these original lows, and yet they did it on almost no volume. It's remarkable. Oh, you know, you can see the little gap right there. So that's at 466. You know, maybe hunt our reload zones of pullbacks against this. Add token. I've liked that name for a long time. I think I probably even was a buyer through here, little old lady kind of stuff. So just sitting on my long positions. But you can just see this. Like I said, I think this is a buyer's market. So I think I did see some squabbling out of this. Yeah, this music coin looks really interesting down here. Anyway, again, look at it. Here's a great example on the weekly charts. Look at the size of this tail. And you go, Brian goes, wicks and tails like to be eaten, right? And you're like, there's no way they're going to take it all the way down to here. And what is that? 3 cents. And here we are. They worked there all the way down to 52 cents. I sure hope it doesn't have to go all the way down to 3 sats. But, you know, if we start seeing some structural signals, you can see the test of these lows. It might be worth a shot up into this area. Yeah, nothing really definitive there, though. Certainly nothing that I'm going to pound the table on. I really like these charity names. This Cure coin, you can see if it W's here, that would be a pretty nice turn. Bought some of that pink recently, and I think it's sort of right back down at the bottom end of its range. So you're more than welcome to join me on that one. People have been asking me on the site, what are we going to do about this CFI? There's nothing really I can do right at the moment. What I'm just going to simply say is they basically said they're going to wound up the operations. And ironically enough, if Ethereum stays where it is, there's actually a premium to the closing price. And that's probably why the market rallied like this. So the position that I have, and I think it came out to like 0.7 BTC or something along those lines. I'm just going to ride out whatever the reorganization is. And if I have to move the coins to get the ETH, so be it. So just an update on that. And if anything, this isn't such a bad scenario. You got to hand it to crypto. If this was like a bulletin board stock, they just go, fuck you, and let the stock go off the board and die. So if anything, you got to respect the co-founded if they do go through with it and you get the ETH credited back to you, and maybe you just liquidate and just take your lumps, whatever. I have a lot of respect for the fact that that team actually even is going to try and do this. I'm surprised, and if anything, the fact that they halted it so that the crazy clowns of the crypto world don't mess around with the price of it while waiting for that event to happen. It's actually pretty respectable. It's pretty grown up of the space. All right. And, you know, I suppose a big part of our conversation, and I kind of did it backwards today. I started with altcoins, but really we should just sort of give an update on what's going on in Bitcoin. I have to say, if we have Thomas on the site, and I think tentatively it's something like Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays kind of idea, but he travels all over the place, and you know, we sort of just can get him when we get him. I think I highly respect his sort of intraday analysis. Great job, great stuff. And if you guys do get the opportunity, and you can just scroll back through the daily briefs if you want to specifically find Thomas's conversations on the market, I think that's definitely super value for the site. And on balance, off the lower time frames, I think he's got everybody positioned. So I'm not going to really necessarily get into too much lower time frame. I'll just sort of more to talk about higher time frame here. I think and I'll sort of work my way down through the time, depending on how long I'm blabbing away here. Hopefully I don't talk too long. You know, on these broiler chicken shows, I do like to do this sort of higher time frame analysis, and on the weekend, especially coming into the weekly close. I thought it was interesting last week. Remember when we did the broilers chicken show? This was just nothing more than an inside bar, And then I came back after my time with Liam, and they just took the wind right out of the market. So who knows how this candle's going to finish the week. I am encouraged by the fact that we just didn't, completely lose our lunch there coming out of last Sunday. And these lows are holding for the time being. I mean, that's encouraging. I was encouraged through the sort of, the mid part of the week and heading into the weekend as price was sitting above this trend line. And I think this is a pretty important trend line. It goes back basically up to here. And it takes this market structure failure as sort of its justification for existence. And you can see how the market tried to accept above it and then rejected back below it. And again, we tried to accept above it and we rejected back below it. And here we are, back just basically sitting right on the underside of it. If anything, this is also a really great testament to our Leanne James, Ron Jeremy, whatever you want to call it, politically correct. And if I keep saying RJ, then it sort of defeats the purpose of calling it LJ. But nonetheless, that trend line resolution setup, basically it says that you really have to hunt for a market structure on the other side of this trend line. So coming out of here, you see this, remember it was a head and shoulders pattern on the daily charts. Well, we just did nothing more than just slam right into it. And then, the euphoria of this move, and probably, in fact, we could probably do it. 200% range extension. So many levels. All right, so that should give us 200% range extension. Yeah, so there was the sort of inverted head and shoulders price objective right into there, which would be against this trend line. The market had so much inertia that it actually went beyond that price objective. And here's a great example where the professionals are going to be letting the public euphoria and their sort of FOMO, push the market into their professional selling level. And sometimes price even goes beyond it. And then sadly, of course, it's that move beyond. What do you think the odds are that divergence developed up through here? Right? And the noobs come in and they buy the final breakout and they don't realize they're buying into a bearish divergence, and then pow, and down she goes. So also too, I think this is also a really good example of how, you could argue to a certain degree, a lot of professionals like to use 2-bar confirmation. So if you're like, well, yeah, this is a trend line breakout. Well, you got 1 bar, but then the second bar couldn't do it. And then 1, 2 back below. No, we're still a bear. And then again, 1 bar. All right, can we do it? Nope. No 2-bar confirmation. So really, there's a lot of actually really good learning material just right in this image right here. In the short term, I'm a little worried that if we get a move up through this high here, people are going to be like, rah, rah, that's a W, rah, 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 new bull market. And I'm a little bit worried because if we change this to a line chart, that technically really isn't a W. That's a lower low. That's actually an M. And this might, it just might be setting up a larger fractal, or not fractal, but harmonic. Where, and actually I think Steven was even posting this in the lounge, where I think it's a 78.6, but I don't have the numbers handy. And of course, we won't really worry about it until we get there. But 78.6 right up in this area here would actually be a harmonic fail level, and we could dump really hard after that. So I'm not really overly impressed with this price action. If anything, what I'm thinking is this top was too easy, and if anything, it's probably a liquidity pool. Remember how quickly price just came careening down here? And I noticed that somebody on Twitter, and I think they posted in the lounge, David, I think it's David, posted in the lounge, there was an article about some market manipulation through this. And this was basically Goldman Sachs came out and said that they were not going to do their sort of crypto trading desk. And his article said that there was, sort of artificial intelligence tracking whatevers. I don't even know what you call them, that said that there was some really funny market activity through this event, and to the tune of something like $70 million or something. So it was a really interesting article that he posted in the lounge this morning. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. And what you might find is that we actually have to go right back up and revisit this level. Because remember, we never did get the Mountain Man tag, right? And this drove me nuts. Like, why did we not hit Mountain Man? We were supposed to hit Mountain Man. So I wonder whether maybe we zip up in here and then fail at the 78.6 where we were supposed to fail, and then the real sort of dump happens. I don't know. It's just conjecture. And we'll deal with that down the road. If anything, that's one of sort of Brian's sort of squiggly line theory. So let's sort of keep that in the back of our mind. If we do actually pivot here and we can start working our way up, then we can start coming out with that thesis, and let's see how that plays out against this high. Because this high, if you look at it on the daily charts, it happens so quickly, right? And it was so violent that, maybe if it comes out that, there was some market manipulation and we have to take the price back to there and square the trades, blah, 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 blah. Well, maybe that makes sense. So, that's sort of like the higher time frame. And, somebody like on Twitter this morning was asking, well, Brian, where do you think Bitcoin's going? And I was like, I don't know where it's going. It's going to go where it wants to go. Two things that sort of bugged me off the higher time frame. We saw recently somebody posted I don't know whether it was a tweet or I know I posted in the lounge and stuff. The cost of production to produce Bitcoin for them was like $2,500 US, which was a bit shocking. This was Goldman Sachs's bottom back at $3,000. And that was sort of the last time that, we had this sort of nice fractally reversal, not the best railroad tracks, but a really nice hard candle body reversal. So it doesn't surprise me that we've had lots and lots of action against that. If we lose this level, then you can see we've got this sort of open tail here, which looks a little suspicious, but really the last sort of major firm railroad tracks, hard body close, open, even engulfing bar reversal level was that Goldman Sachs bottom call at like $2,000-3,000. So there is that floating out in the distance. I think that's got to be a brutal reality for all of us. As well, too, typical duration of bear markets. The typical bear market is 18 months. And of course, if we do the same logic off of this run, it came out to just about that same time. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if Coinigy lost that data. Anyway, that was the last bull right there. We have all the levels. We just don't have the price data. Just kind of interesting. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. We have GDAX. I wonder if that was the right exchange to have that off of. Anyway, I'll have to fix that later. I didn't just notice that now. Maybe that's an issue with their beta. Who knows? But anyway, back to present day. You guys have heard me talk lots about typical bear market durations are about 18 months. So, if we map that out from the top, well, that takes us to about next summer. We've heard lots of talk about ETFs and all that kind of stuff. If anything, maybe we have sort of a capitulation and then finally sort of just sideways action for a good while. I don't know how this looks, but, I have seen cost of production talk in the $3,000 area. I do know that this Goldman Sachs, and I've talked to you guys in these weekly videos before, has talked lots about how their clients, they promoted them to be a buyer here at $2,000-$3,000, so that would be a 90% correction off of the top. So there's a lot of sort of things that would sort of validate that thinking. How long this takes, I don't know. And I don't think anybody really is going to give you a specific date. In fact, it'd be kind of a fun challenge. Maybe on the site, we should create like a little pool. This would be the great time to have like a TRI coin, right? Where everybody chips in like 5 TRI coins and we have like a potluck. And everybody just sort of picks, what date do you think that Bitcoin actually bottoms? And maybe some people on the community will say, well, it already has bottomed, and they might be right. Who knows? I will say on balance, from playing this silly venture capital game for so long, that you've heard me talk lots about reload zones. Do we have to go down to 88.6, maybe 88.6 is that $2,000-$3,000 mark? I don't know. But generally speaking, what I've found in my experience, is how do I get that damn fib? Where are you, fib? I guess that's this fib. Let's go. Don't even have it on here. All right, well, let's put it over here. 0.886. All right. Oh, yeah. Maybe there's more validity to Ian's 88.6 off of here after all. Generally speaking, when it comes to institutional participation in the market, we all know 61.8, good old Mountain Man. We see him at work constantly on the intraday and the swing charts all the time. I think that does explain a lot of this action. If I could show you that old bottom, he got lots of play off his level. So we know that the institutions are going to start getting interested here. 78.6, I often see that a lot of sort of venture cap names ultimately end up bottoming off of the 78.6 level. You never know exactly how it's going to look. It might look like that. It might ultimately look like that. I've often seen that happen. But just generally speaking, and this has been the message that I've conveyed to the public, and I'll continue to convey it. If you just are like, you know what, I'm really interested in this crypto story. I don't want to be walking into a trap and buying tops. Just draw your reload zones. And when the market starts getting in here, you just start nibbling away. I love that idea. And since, Bitcoin is so algorithmic, oh, look at that. I guess, how do you do that? Bitcoin is so algorithmic. I actually believe that there's a lot of validity to this sort of, year and a half typical bear market. It operates in an incredibly algorithmic fashion. Why it respects Mountain Man so well. So, for those people that just want to slowly get themselves into the story and get them positioned for the next run, I mean, I heard, Thomas Lee, and actually I think the levels, hey, there's Grim's here. Hi, Grim. He's going to, new level oneers are going to be introduced to Mr. Thomas Lee, I think that's his name, next week when we talk about demographics and the influences in the market and that. I don't know whether he's going to have his 25,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year. I think that might be a bit aggressive. But on balance, I think that he does excellent research, and I think he has the sort of general gist of the idea. Is his timing right on? I don't know. Mr. McAfee, I'd be worried about that guy. It's going to be a challenge, and I'm sure he's going to take a lot of heat over this, no doubt about it. And in a weird sort of way, I don't really like to put time windows on my trades. I do like the idea, Shane. You'd probably know this in your sleep. When's Bitcoin's next halving? Right, we could probably come up with a scenario when to start thinking about the market has bottomed May 2020. All right, so that's basically right there, right? So, you know, if typical bear market is 18 months in duration and the market likes to rally into halvenings, you can almost see this thing sort of playing itself out. In a weird sort of way, we could, I mean, I don't know whether we go right up to the old highs. Who knows on this crazy space? Maybe it looks something like that, you know? Tough to say. My hunch is it's probably going to look more like something like that, then like that, and like that. That would probably be more my sort of guess of what this is going to look like. But long and short of it here is if you can think into that kind of window, and remember, we always are like, you know, Wall Street doesn't make a stock recommendation without printing right across the top. You must have a 3 to 5 year time horizon. Well, that's not even that bad. That's only like a year and a half. That's not so bad. And considering you guys just went through 9 months of shit, I mean, another, you know, ironically enough, I would argue that, yeah, there's probably going to be some back and forth through here. And you never know exactly what this is going to look like. And when it ultimately does put in the W, we'll look back and we'll go, oh yeah, there was lots of opportunity to get in. And there was also a check of the original W. It's remarkable how this shit works. And maybe what I'll do is, because I do want to show you how this happened the last cycle. How am I going to do this? Am I still in the beta? I wonder, it must have been because we did that GDAX. Wonder why it's doing GDAX. BTC. Oh, GDAX. Bitstamp. BTC. USD. Oh, I lost all our pretty lines though. Yeah, crap. Anyway, so here was the last cycle. You know, we do a lot of sort of humming and hawing. Is this the bottom? And then they put in an M and then they break it down. Nope, turns out it wasn't, right? I kind of think that this is kind of the environment that we're in right now. Everybody's hunting for that bottom. Everybody's looking for that bottom, right? What we probably have to do is go through a nice little FU against 5,000. Okay, that's the bottom. And then they do one more FU just to break their hearts. It wouldn't surprise me if it has to go something like that. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that when the market does ultimately bottom, the interesting thing is, and this was on the U.S. Marshals office, their second auction. This was the first auction right there. This was their second auction. And the interesting thing about this, hopefully everybody looks at this and goes, okay, now I can see the long-term base in price, right? And what's really interesting is it's like a W within a W, right? Really very compressed price. The market broke out, and what was fascinating about this event right here was that that was an absolute perfect mountain man tag. I mean, just absolutely textbook. And what was fascinating about this is it was textbook going both directions. It's remarkable. So here, let's see if I can show you that. Get all that stuff off of there. So it was a perfect mountain man tag going this way. Right there. Doink. Zoink. Look at that, eh? That's ridiculous. I don't know how close that is. All right, so sellers getting sell orders off there. You look like a goddamn genius, right? But what was really cool about this, talking about this bottom, is if you actually drew a fib going this direction. I don't know whether it was off, yeah, just well off of there. That was a perfect mountain man tag to get you back in on the long side. And really what this was it was just a check of the original structural breakout. So the point here is that the market will bottom. And then ironically enough, the market will actually give us, okay, this is your officially, we have confirmed the breakout. Remember I talked about 2-bar confirmation, 1-bar, 2-bar confirmed. We have officially broken out, and here is your check. Here is your buying window. And it's interesting how the price just of the asset just sort of sat there. Went do 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 do. So, that's probably what our bottom is going to look like. And as I said, what I've personally found is that Bitcoin is incredibly algorithmic. So I don't think there's a big hurry to forward chase these W's. Let the W's come in, right? And then let the W be your structure to help you frame your risk. But there just isn't any W's just yet. So that's unfortunately about where we have to leave the conversation. Go and put in a W, and then on the breakout and on the check of the W, I can go and buy the W, and odds are I bet you it's going to be a 61.8 fib. But I just don't see that just yet. And like I said, when I sort of started off this conversation, what I'm a bit concerned about was the fact that they closed last week and they actually made a new low here, right? And M's and W's, I don't really like the look of that. So what that means is for this to be an actual W, we actually have to go all the way back up here to actually confirm the W. So where am I trying to go with all of this? I think we're still stuck in a trading range. The irony of it all is we started this trading range, probably about 6 months ago, eh? Bitcoin Dad. Does everybody remember Bitcoin Dad? I don't even know if we even talk about Bitcoin Dad. Garzarelli, I want to say Garzarelli or something like that. CFTC guy. His commentary in front of the U.S. Congress. Don't beat up Bitcoin. It's not so bad. Dead cat bounce off of that level right into 38.2, which is interesting commentary unto itself. I don't know whether that's the 38.2 of that range. Where is that? So that would have been there. Yeah. So boink, right into 38.2. And all those people that just took level 1, right? And Thomas has talked to you guys repeatedly about this. Is Snap, that chart, almost identical, right, Mark? In fact, we could probably pull up a chart of that Snap and pull up a chart of Bitcoin. I bet you they look very, very similar. Why don't we do that just for fun? Just for fun. I can remember it was Snap, Crackle, Pop, Kellogg's Rice Krispies. Uh-oh. All right, well, this one, it did break down and go to new lows. But if anything, really good example of not a bad idea to let 38.2 resolve itself. Here you can see the bounce into it, and then an M, and then fail. So I don't know whether that's Bitcoin's future. No, let's hope it isn't. But nonetheless, you can see the rally into 38.2. And in this case, we've just coiled and coiled and coiled. Something big's going to happen here. There's no doubt about it. Usually they say these triangles resolve 2/3 of the apex. So maybe if we're lucky, the market's already told us. Let's see. I think that the triangle, and see, I'm not quite sure about right angle triangles. I'm not quite positive, but you can see literally this thing's coming to an apex. Something's got to give here soon. In the next week or two, I guess the ultimate deadline here is October 1st. But what we really want to see, if we want to, like right now, I would still sort of consider this downward trending. We really need to go, and at the very least in the short term, to break this new M, we've got to go take this high out. Like I said, that's a suspicious high. So I wonder if the market can do that. It's interesting how this triangle, and this trend line here seem to correspond nicely with some sort of resolution happening right now. So I think, actually, interestingly enough, this is kind of like where options traders would want to put on like a straddle. where, you've heard me talk about the bull bear lines in the sand. Well, I think we have one here. My hunch is if we resolve up through the top here, and that's assuming that we finish today where we are right now. Who knows if we do or not. But if we go out here today, beep, open up next week, next week's candle is going to be on the other side of this trend line. And then we tick up through that high, that's a buy signal, right? That's an inside bar reversal. It's still contained within a downtrend, so my hunch is that my target should be that high. And as we sort of pointed out time and time again off the daily charts, I'm not sure why this mountain man level was not hit. And if we find out that Goldman Sachs manipulated the market, just like Mr. Davis told us, and that this top was actually had a whole bunch of shenanigans around it, my mountain man's going to get hit, damn it. That will, however, not generate a new W, because remember, this low is lower than this low. And what I'm worried about is that we actually rally up into this level, 78.6, or maybe as high as 88.6, and we ultimately fail against this original M top. Remember, this is, for those people that play M's, what do we call this stop, right? If we, veterans, I don't know. Well, Grim, you're not allowed to answer this because you should know this. But everybody else can take a whack at this. In fact, I was even talking about this recently. Where the hell's the color bar? Like that. Like that. Like that. There we go. All right. What do we call this part of the M right there? What do we call that? Hey, very good, Zach. Oh, excellent, Cole. You got it. Nicely done. And we kind of had that sort of situation with this W down here and them running after this low here, right? So this high here, in my opinion, is actually extremely vulnerable. And really, we won't know that this is actually a W until we actually go and, nice weekly close up in this area up in here. That would be 82, 8,300. And frankly speaking, if Bitcoin does start to take off like that, I think you're actually going to get a pile-in effect. And that Thomas Lee guy is going to be like, I told you, here we go. I told you. And all fucking hell's going to break loose. And maybe Mr. Penis Eater gets off the hook. So you never know. It's totally possible. I mean, I'm not going to discount it. But what I would say, the real battle is going to be up here at about, and this makes sense, right? About 7,500. If we start closing and printing above that 7,500, then 10,000 starts to come into people's eyes, right? That 7,500, in my opinion, is a huge psychological level here. So that's probably the real mark that we need to watch. And I would argue just through this range here, that's all we are. This is nothing more than a trading range. Yeah, and a psychological one. And of course, we've got this 5,000 BFRN floating down here, which really worries me too, because that's a pretty damn big, fat, round number. So, yeah, I like the idea that if we can go and recapture 7,500 in earnest, and then ultimately start printing above this 81, 8,200 area, I think, we're off to the races again. But that's a big if. There's a lot of work to do in between all this. And, of course, the volume profile as a whole and the 5,000. Thank you, Mr. Grimm. So over the short term, I think actually the weekly bars are printing fairly clearly for you. I think that if we can finish the week here, and really I don't want to see this rally too much here, if anything. If anything, I'd like them, this is kind of exactly what I said last week, is I just want to see them park price. Just don't move, right? Finish the day, and then into the new Asian session, we'll get sort of a gauge of how they're feeling to begin their week, whether risk is on or risk is off, et cetera, et cetera. If they frig around with price too much here, then what they might do is they might ratchet it up here, then open here, and then print like an inside reversal, which means at the end of next week, we're looking for a fail signal. So anyway, so what I would like to see here ideally is just finish where we are and then beep, tomorrow's bar prints, 5, 6, 7 o'clock Pacific time tonight, and we just tick up through the highs there. If that's the case, then I think we got a pretty good shot of rallying right up and taking a stab at these highs. If we finish here, beep, open up, and then crap out through these lows, then you know that the bear's back on and get ready for some fireworks. I think that's actually pretty straightforward. So levels I would be watching right now here, 6,100, let's call it. This low of this bar on GDAX was 61.16. And the high of today, 65.80. It's going out here at 64.89. So we're a good $90 off that high. If they could just settle it down here, I'd be pleased as punch. Sort of finish off today's offering. If we take a look at some of those sort of lower time frame kind of thinking, it's probably a best chart. We had this swing trade that I reported through last week. I think you could argue it's still working. The double bottom, you can see the entry move stop to scratch. I think it would have been a good idea that if we came down here, you just walk away from the trade. I do like that. I'm still mulling over stop to trailing, but I suppose this kind of makes sense where the market, for the aggressive traders, they might have just hopped off on a break of this low. But I actually don't mind the idea of you saying, well, there's a fractal top. And if we break back below that low, I'm not going to get stopped at scratch, but I'll just take a couple bucks and just walk away. Then the market works its way back up in gee whiz last night. And in the lounge last night, I was drawing these trend lines. I thought they were pretty relevant. We had this very fast trend line. And in the lounge yesterday afternoon, I was posting, well, if we lose this trend line, you can start to see where support comes in. And sure enough, they dumped off of this line. But they really had no interest in bringing it back down against the bottom end of the range here. And it quickly snapped right back up. And gee whiz, look where it ran out of steam right against that trend line. So interestingly enough, if you were going to say, well, Brian, what is sort of your trading range look like over the short term? I would say this is your trading range, like that. And we're probably just going to play ping pong in here until either we accept above this level, and you can even see, things like LJs might start setting up here. In fact, actually, you can sort of see it developing now. We get a counter trend rally up into here. Some noobs start going long. They leave, these big old tails need to be addressed. Maybe we dip back down against these tails. Notice the bottom end of that triangle is going to be basically right against that low, right? You could argue that there's probably nice liquidity pools sitting in there. So we could turn right back up in here. And then we have 1 high, 2 highs, 3 highs. If we get any kind of structural breakout, there's your buy signal right there. And of course, pull up your momentum indicators, and if they're starting to W and stuff, right, then, you got yourself a trade. In fact, we probably could even start drawing bot levels off of this. Ooh, look at that. Didn't get by 66. So the bot, I used to always say, the bot is alive. It's alive. And I used to put the Ace Ventura Pet Detective. I think that's what his name was. Something like that. All right, so then we go bot trade, and there you go. Ooh, tough one. Right against these candle body lows. That's a tough one. But notice what will happen here, right? If you get this counter trend rally up into this resistance level, then a pullback, there's going to be your bot level. And my hunch is that if there's going to be sort of a tradable W or something that develops, it comes in right off of this area down in here. And that is the 17th through the 18th. So what is that? Oh, that's Monday, Tuesday, and gee whiz. I think we say something usually happens during this sort of Tuesday, Wednesday London kill zones. So if anything, I can kind of see the trade sort of setting itself up. I'll keep this on the screen. We'll sort of see how this goes. But that would generally be sort of my anticipated price action going forward. And of course, if we lose these levels, well, then we got to look for tests of the original bottom. And it's interesting too, because we have one low, 2 lows, 3 lows developing here, right? I suppose those people that do the 3 high-low method, we could even justify now moving just based on 3 lows or stop to below here. That's another conversation for another day. I kind of like this projection. Let's see what happens. That's Brian's squiggly line theory for the win. I'll post that in the lounge. Let's see how it plays out. Okay, so we spent a lot of time talking about Bitcoin off the higher time frames. I've given you sort of my sort of thinking off of the lower time frames, the sort of trade, the swing trade. As I said, a bullish resolution through here. Remember we said just a moment ago, if we can accept back, and reverse here, nice inside bar. This is all, in my opinion, very easily take backable. Guys, and if you haven't heard this before, be sure to write this down. But this is what we like to, the term that we like to use in the trading world is look left. So it's really interesting is if we do a horizontal ray off of that previous resistance line there, right, you can see that is significant resistance. If we were sort of trading through here and you're like, where's resistance likely to come in? You look back to the left and you go, okay, well, there's a key high, there's a key high, and there's a key high. And sure enough, market rallies right up into this key high and then stalls. The key that I would be operating off of is if we can accept back above these highs, Leanne James, the bot pushing us up into here, 50% levels. Look left means accepting above this red line. Look left, holy Jesus. This is basically just a straight line all the way right back up to the top. Can you guys see that? You could, you guys are always like, well, not you guys, but a lot of people in the crypto space say, show me the big green dildos. I want the big green dildos, right? Well, this is a scenario where if we accept above here, you might get one big ass honking green dildo because there just isn't much traffic here. This thing might just break out and woohoo, just launches itself right back up to the top end of the range. So let's keep that out of the back of our eyes. And hopefully, with that sort of conversation of look left and understanding that fractal and the inside bar reversal off of the weekly charts, you can understand why I say that this level could be recaptured very, very quickly. And the fact that, remember, we talked about this was Goldman Sachs, market manipulation, blah, 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 blah. We might find that they have to take the market right back to that level and sort of hit the reset button. That could easily happen. The easiest way that Hayes guy didn't catch any shit over what happened on that maintenance issue. You all remember that. I think the number one reason why he didn't take any shit over it was because the moment that they did it, right, and I think that's what this event was right here, right, This was the mess. Oh my God, liquidation, blah, blah, blah. But they took the market right back to the maximum extreme pain level. So in essence, nobody that wanted the position on at that level or whatever, nobody was hurt. And I think that's why this event has gone by. Nobody's really said anything about this. So my hunch is that, if Goldman Sachs is caught up in some sort of mini scandal or something, the easiest way to undo this problem is just take the market right back up into those levels. Then everybody squares their books, nobody's bitching, and we go from there. So that's another sort of reason why I think that, if Mr. Davis, which is an excellent piece there, thank you, Mr. Davis, if his sort of talk that, there's somebody who's got themselves by the short and curlies because they were caught manipulating the market, they might just quickly unwind that. Okay, somebody asked in the lounge if I just take a quick boo at ETH. If so, much appreciated. All right, well, I'll give you my 2 cents. I think the current bid's about maybe a tenth of a penny, maybe if I'm lucky on the pink sheets. That's an old joke that we used to use in the broker pits, but none of you guys would understand that. And a tenth of a penny, that's actually pretty expensive these days when we talk stats. All right, so ETH, once upon a time in a land far, far away. You guys remember in the summertime, I put on this long and I said I was going to risk against the low, and then I went on vacation and I came back and, oh, Jesus, Brian, you idiot. Really, taking the W and risking the trade, that's not really idiot. The idiot is the market failed and I didn't have a plan to deal with the failure. And as a result, and I've basically told you guys this, I want to use this as a demonstration of what not to do. And I want all of you to feel my pain as I go through having to deal with a mistake and unwinding it. My hunch is that we revisit these lows again. And if we do a fib off of this entire range, you notice 38.2 is in that area. So that's where I think ultimately we are going to have some sort of dead cat bounce rally into maybe this resistance area. It might mean, though, that what ends up happening is for this 38.2 to line up with that old low, it might mean, come on, you have so many darn fibs. Which one is it? That one, right? It might mean that this ultimate low actually has to be a bit lower. Right, we might have to come all the way down to here, which makes the 38.2 now line up with those key lows. Long and short of it here is I'm going to be riding this out and waiting for that 38.2 and the revisit of these old lows, and then I'll close the position. And hopefully this, my hunch is it's probably going to take about 6 months for this to play out. And it should be an excellent demonstration for you. And hopefully I can go back and use this as an example of what's probably going to happen if you don't respect stops. Yes, the positions are salvageable, but sometimes it takes an awfully long time to correct the mistake. So that's sort of where I am with regard to that trade in particular. Just an update. I didn't put much money into it, like 0.05 BTC or something. So it's not like it's going to break the bank for me. And like I said, I'm going to use this as a demonstration for you guys. And I demonstration of what not to do. Everybody should clearly see the W here. It failed. Brian should have, woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? Follow your trading plan. Be a professional, Brian. Exited the trade on that event. Just as simple as that. What do I see now? Do I see, we potentially tried to go in W again. You can see they even put in a cute little W, which sort of was this. Came up to this resistance level off of these two highs. Kind of think Leanne James kind of stuff. And we could not break out through this massive resistance level here, these two trend lines confluence here, and we rolled over hard and broke to new lows, which happens a lot. And it's one reason why I like that Leanne James setup where you have to wait for the market structure signal on the other side of the trend lines. So, I suppose you could have argued, well, Brian, maybe the market was going to go in and put in a W off of here, that lows holds here and then breaks out here. I really wouldn't have a problem if you bought that, if you got some nice structural signal on the other side of these trend lines. But we didn't get that. Market failed, new lows. And what really sucks about this, which kind of drives me crazy. Hello. Hi, Casey. All right. Maybe somebody can help Casey with his microphone, but I appreciate the baby input. And if we all want to have a little bit of a cry and then maybe a little bit of a nap right now, if you want to put the video on pause, maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe we'll go have a warm bottle of milk. We'll handle this. If anything, like I said, I want to use this as a demonstration that, okay, well, we're going to repair a trade that's gone wrong. And I'm going to show you how long it's going to take to repair this trade. All right, so the point of the matter here, we broke to new lows. And like I said just a few minutes ago, I think the biggest piss off about all of this is that at the same time I was hunting longs, this big, fat, bearish setup versus Bitcoin came along in this thing. And really, the worst part about this is that actually this bot setup set up actually extremely well. Move stop to break even was hit. Move stop to trailing was hit. I think at the very worst, anybody who did take this bearish bot, you better make money on this trade. I have no idea where you're going to get stopped out, but you have absolutely no reason for anybody to say that they lost money taking this bearish buy. I think we, in a recent sort of video, we talked a little bit about, okay, well, we've stopped a trailing hit, but this is so insanely volatile. If you use Brian Simple's 3 high-low method, we're just going to count backwards this sort of third most recent rally peak if we're short, and then trough if you're long. And maybe you use that high, but I'm kind of thinking 1, 2, maybe even all the way up here to 3. So your stop would be sort of sitting up here right now. I know there are some people that like to use moving averages to help them with stops. I think probably if you put like a 30 period SMA, I think Grim likes to use that. Don't you like to use a 30 SMA? There's a million different ways to manage stops. I'm not here to say there's one right way and there's one wrong way. I do like to use market structure. Every time the market shows me a lower high and lower low, then it means that it must be a bear. So I'm just going to sort of stay with that. And I understand that the most recent market structure, remember we talked about this, is like the noob stop off of this M. So this stop here, level here, is really vulnerable. A lot of noobs will put their stop in here. The market won't go through these highs because this was the original market structure top. So if I do that 3 high-low method, it sort of gets me to have my stop before the most recent market structure failure. Let the most recent market structure failure, let them fight it out. And if the bulls resolve bullishly, okay, well, so be it. I'll walk away if we break another resistance line. But that's just Brian's personal bent. And in fact, in the Level 3 program, Module 2, we give you several different scenarios of stop management and talk a little bit about things like the 3 high-low method and, set selling levels, pyramiding, all that kind of stuff. Well, no, actually, we don't. When do we talk about pyramiding? Anyway, somewhere in level 3. That's super, super advanced stuff. I don't want new people to trading to think about pyramiding. Okay, so where are we right now? On this bearish setup, I think that we're coming up and we're testing this key resistance level here. 38.2 as well seems to line up with there. And so we'll sort of find out what the sort of tone of this market is. We always say you should let this 38.2 resolve itself because you don't know. It might go NW. If that's the case, then we're probably looking at a shot up against these highs. And if you use the 3 high-low method, you're probably going to get some sort of market structure failure in here, M top, whatever. So 1, 2, you'd be blown out on a break of these highs up here. You never know. You might get 1, 2, 3, and you're blown out here. The point of the matter here is if we do start Wing, I think it's cause for the people that would be in this trade to maybe think about just hopping off. But at the same time, too, there's a very realistic possibility that we just fail at 38.2 and roll over, right? Remember snap, right? Thomas's snap, right? That's basically what that did. So this is why it's so important in my education programs that I try and convey to you guys how important it is to let this 38.2 resolve. There are probably lower time frame traders, right? If we drill down to say like an hourly chart, they're probably going to be looking at this as a range, high of the range, this is a low, and this actually becomes a reload short zone right against this high here. Let's see what that hourly chart looks like. I bet it is. So there's that 38.2. There's that rally peak that we talked about. And the irony of it all is that there will be professional traders that are going to be like, all right, well, there's a trading range. And my plan says I got to start hunting reload shorts up in this area. Right. And then there's guys like Joshua who are going to go, all right, now I'm going to be pulling this chart apart and looking for them gaps. So now we can actually start seeing where the institutions are going to be thinking about hitting this thing. Can you see that level there? Holy sick gap, eh? Total empire top. Got all these trap bulls here, and this is basically a brick wall. These guys are frozen in place here. Looks like there's a little bit of a gap there. Some trap bulls up there. Looks like there's a gap here. All these trap bulls up in here. That lines up with that 78.6. That's a pretty interesting level. Looks like there might also be another gap in here. That's original market structure top. That looks like a really interesting level. So now when we go back to that daily chart, we can see that that's right up in through here, right? And that's basically that 38.2 area. This is going to be a bit of a tough fight in here. So the point that I'm trying to make with all this is let's wait for 38.2 to resolve itself and then give us sort of direction before we even really think about moving stops yet, right? 38.2 here, the battle is on. And all those cheeky little gaps and Joshua and his buddies all sitting in here. The target is still down here at 0.0166. That hasn't changed. And what might end up happening here is, and this is total conjecture, but maybe we go boobity boo, right? And then take us down into that level. It's a final bot that sets up off of here. Notice how that'll line up nicely with that. So I can definitely see that. Total possibility. So as it stands right now, this was nothing more than just a dead cat bounce, right? Boing. Into 38.2, and now we're just simply watching how this is going to resolve itself. You just don't know. And I would say the statistical odds are still in favor of this low being taken out. And also, too, remember, we've got this massive V bottom original low that was put in here back last December. Remember, seasonality. ETH loves to bottom into that December window. So could we get some sort of capitulation over the next month or two here? Totally. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And, you know, you see how this W formed in here? For us to believe that this thing really has bottomed, this is what we want to see. Notice this candle. Beautiful. And actually, this was even a bit of a trap too, eh? So notice this really hard reversal here, then came back down, little fuck you to try and wash out guys who are like, oh yeah, I'm going to totally buy against the low and then I might stop here, right? And then nice little sideways, resolves bullishly, away we go. Right? And if you change that to a line chart, I bet you just looks like the prettiest W. Yeah. So that's kind of what we want to see for us to believe that the bottom is in on Ethereum. And I just don't see it yet. What I see is a V bottom. And if anything, you guys remember when we had this bottom come in here, I was kind of like, oh, Jesus. I didn't want this candle to be too big because now that makes it really sloppy. You know, if you ever see the Empire State Building and the ground looks like this, be careful. That's dangerous. that's not very flat. And what's scary, right, is that you can see price sort of just kept going along that line. And now we could actually put in an inside bar fractal failure here. If we finish today like this, and I don't know how today's going to finish, but if we finish today like this and we lose this low tomorrow, this is all open air down in here, right? And then, you know, Brian talks about his candle body lows. You know, the day traders, they're going to be hunting probably reload zones off of this low here, right down in there. Look at that. So candle body lows, wicks and tails like to be eaten, 78.6. So you can almost already see the trade setting itself up for the day traders, right? Actually, this would be more like a swing trader, right? Let's, you know, so, you know, if you're thinking that, well, I really think it's going to look something like this. Okay, well, let's get a nice stab against these lows. We have a nice tail to work with. Ideally, we'd love to get the market to come right down into here, put in a nice polite W and say, I'm out of here. And then you have just like a silver-plated buy setup. But, you know, a girl can dream. Who knows what's going to happen? I'll keep this on the screen for you. We'll see what happens. The market will do whatever the hell the market does. But if it does play out like this, I'll go and maybe I'll go and buy some more. I don't know. All right, so that's hopefully that helps what I'm seeing on ETH. I suppose we'll just finish off with, and really you could argue almost all the altcoin space looks the same way. So ironically enough, it's not really, things look extremely similar. It's quite remarkable, really. So versus dollar, same thing, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, nasty fail in here. That's really ugly. You could even argue there's probably a bearish bot, boobity boo to boobity boo, which is probably giving you a target somewhere down in here. If we go, say, here, go set up. Actually, no, that's not what I want to do. Here to here. Then flip that around. Okay, so it did 33. Was I thinking there to there? Well, maybe I was thinking a different one. How about we go there, there. Okay, so it didn't hit 33. Okay, so we'll take that off the table. Yeah, I think, well, I mean, if you are a bear, you're thinking about shorting this, I would probably go there to there. So 33's been hit. If you get one high, two highs, three highs, and then a failure, then we can start thinking about that short shot to the downside. But for the time being, I think I would actually be inclined just to leave this alone. As I said, I'm nursing a bad trade, and I have to correct it. And since it's just made a V bottom, I could entertain the idea of hunting long setups off of a test of these lows. But if we get 1, 2, 3 highs that come in here, then that might set up the next bearish spot. And if I had nasty structure looking at me in the face, I don't know whether I'd be hunting that long. I'd have to see the market come down into here and then W and then turn back up. And if it did all of that, really there isn't a heck of a lot of difference in price to be thinking about here. We're talking about what, $50, right? My thinking is to be honest with you, if this thing really is a bull, you see how long it took to play out here. If this thing really is a bull, let the market just resolve this bullishly, and so what about the $50? Really, if this thing is a bull, it will do all of this and give you an awesome buy signal, and it's probably better to wait for all of that to play out versus going in and trying to pick bottoms here and assuming that there's a bottom in here. Because right now, like I said, at best, it's a V bottom. Okay, well, I hope that helps. I've been blabbing away here for about an hour or so, so I'll probably leave it at that for today. Hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. Fun with broiler chickens. I'm going to go off and have some fun with Liam. So the only thing left to say is bye for now.